My older sister, Hailey, was the epitome of a saintly figure. She adopted the son of the man who murdered our mother, which then led to our father's brutal murder. She insisted on having her best friend, Mia, move into my rented apartment. When Mia set the place ablaze, a house valued at 70,000 yuan per square meter, I was shoved out and forbidden from trying to extinguish the flames. Hailey scolded me. You only lost a house, but she lost her life. And then, I was forced to bear tens of millions of yuan in debt, sinking into depression until I died. Meanwhile, Alex, the killer's son, started a live stream, lamenting his poverty and garnering nearly 10 million in donations. He then announced he was going abroad for charity, only to abscond with the money. When I opened my eyes again, Hailey was still overflowing with her moral pronouncements. If you don't help, you're no different from an animal. I slumped to the ground, watching the charred steel frame billow smoke. My house, worth 70,000 yuan per square meter, was utterly destroyed, a loss of at least 10 million. Overwhelmed, I fainted. When I woke up, Hailey was being interviewed on TV. I believe the most innocent party in this matter is the landlord. My sister, Chloe, was the tenant, so she must bear full responsibility for all damages. Even though she's my flesh and blood, I cannot cover for her. Hailey washed her hands of everything, leaving me to face tens of millions in debt. My lawyer suggested that Mia, her best friend, intentionally committed arson, so her family also had an obligation to compensate. He proposed a lawsuit. Hailey immediately flew into a rage, cursing the lawyer. On what grounds do you demand compensation from Mia's family? What wrong did they do? Have you considered that they lost their daughter? On the contrary, Chloe should be responsible for supporting Mia's parents. How can you be so heartless? Even as I stood on the rooftop, Hailey was still lecturing me. You can't die. The landlord's money hasn't been paid back. Mia's parents still need someone to support them. You can't be so selfish. The 18-story building was my path to liberation. But when I opened my eyes again, Hailey's voice echoed in my ears like a death curse. I know you're suffering, but that boy is suffering even more than you. How can you bear to see him homeless and without a place to stay? He's over 30 and you're only in your early 20s. He's heartbroken, he's so pathetic. If you don't help, you're no different from an animal. It's no trouble at all. Just cook for him and do his laundry after work every day. If you don't want to cook, just order takeout. It won't cost much each month. His hand, heavy with golden bracelets, caressed my calloused, working hands. Hailey, 36, had never married. She was known for her immense compassion, especially for animals. For years, she forced me to be a vegetarian. I worked several jobs a day, starving myself to the point of malnutrition, pale and emaciated. Yet she spent her days at casinos and spas, constantly claiming to be anemic and needing rich broths to nourish herself. From a young age, it was just Hailey and me. Over time, I was brainwashed, believing whatever she told me. When Hailey heard news about nuclear wastewater, she gritted her teeth, turning to scold netizens. It's not being discharged right at your doorstep, is it? Why such an extreme reaction? Foreigners' lives are still lives. Can't you be a little more generous? I truly don't understand why everyone is so petty. But if someone accidentally dropped trash near her doorstep, she would immediately run to building management, complaining repeatedly, insisting that the person who littered come apologize in person. In my past life, Hailey owned a 300-square-meter villa while I lived precariously, constantly moving. If a colleague hadn't rented me a cheap apartment, I wouldn't have even had a place to stay with my uncle. Not long after I lost my job, when I saw my house go up in flames, my brain almost shut down. A 1 yuan bun fell to the ground, covered in dust. To stop me from putting out the fire, Mia violently shoved me out of the room and locked the door. My 7-year-old jacket had a large hole burned through it. I collapsed outside, screaming, "I took you in and you repay me by harming me. If you want to die, find another place. Why burn down my rented apartment?" Mia stood by the window, a chilling smile on her face. "I'm so rotten, I won't allow anyone else to live a better life than me." The fierce flames consumed my life, which had just begun. But the one who pushed me to the brink was my own sister, Hailey. She pointed at my face and yelled, "It's just a house. Why can't you be sympathetic to her? You only lost property, but she lost her life." Only after I died did I realize Hailey had known all along that Mia was deep in gambling debt and mentally unstable, no different from a ticking time bomb. Yet to save Mia, she pushed that bomb toward me. Out of sisterly affection, I backed down. Hailey then continued to incite me. "If you help her, you'll become a good person like me. Look what I brought you." As if it were a treasure, she handed me a bag of rotten fruit. I coldly pushed her hand away. Don't you have a villa? Even your best friend isn't allowed to stay there. Why do you always have to squeeze into my rented apartment? For years, she always used the excuse of training me. Not only did she not help, she even usurped the villa our mother left for me. Hailey was stunned, perhaps not expecting her usually obedient younger sister to dare to contradict her. She forced a smile. I just want you to have company, Chloe. You know I'm busy all day. Don't you have any compassion? It was always family ties and moral obligations binding me. For years, I had endured enough of these. I paid the rent, while Mia only offered thanks. Following Hailey's words, I wholeheartedly helped Mia, but in the end, Mia treated me like a servant. This life, I will not make the same mistakes again. You're truly busy all day, Hailey, at the mahjong table, but that doesn't affect your charity work, does it? If you want company, I'll move into your villa too. Taking in both of us would be even more charitable, wouldn't it? Don't you have any kindness in your heart? Besides, I'm your only remaining family. Hailey looked both surprised and tried to object. No, you can't. I quickly cut her off. Then I'll go tell your best friend this good news, shall I? Ignoring her attempts to pull me back, I ran straight to the living room. Mia was sitting on the sofa, wiping away tears. I smiled brightly. Don't cry anymore, Mia. Hailey was worried you'd feel mistreated here, so she's specifically letting you move into her villa. She'll take good care of you. Hailey truly is a kind person. Clearly, living in Hailey's villa was better than struggling in my cramped apartment. Mia immediately hugged Hailey joyfully, shaking her vigorously. I knew it. I knew you wouldn't abandon me. Hailey's face grew darker and darker. Finally, she gritted her teeth and carried Mia's luggage out of my room. As I opened the door, I saw Ethan standing there, holding a durian, my favorite fruit. Tears welled up involuntarily. I rushed to hug him. Only I knew how much Ethan had sacrificed for me in my past life. His body stiffened slightly as he hesitantly asked, "What's wrong, Chloe? Are you moving again? Didn't you just get here?" I silently wiped my tears, facing Hailey with a sweet smile. Yes, Hailey, my beautiful and compassionate sister, wants to welcome us both into her villa to live together. The moment Hailey saw Ethan, she immediately tidied her clothes and smoothed her hair. I met Ethan after I started working. From the first time she saw him, Hailey constantly probed for information about him. Clearly, she liked him, but she didn't want to make the first move and lose the upper hand, so she only occasionally acted friendly towards him. But Ethan completely ignored her. Mia was still sniffling, looking at Hailey emotionally. Oh, Hailey, just wait until I get through this difficult period. You can tell me how you want me to repay you. She had said the exact same thing to me before. In the end, just because I was unemployed and couldn't lend her money in time, she repaid me by burning down my house. Hailey forced a smile. Seeing Ethan safe made me happier than anything. In my past life, because of the house fire, I accumulated tens of millions of yuan in debt, while Hailey fled to the mountains to do charity work, not bothering to help me. To help me collect compensation money, Ethan went to the black market and participated in drug trials for a pharmaceutical company. Each trial only earned him 20,000 yuan. To earn money faster, Ethan contacted multiple drug trial companies at once. Eventually, due to cumulative side effects, his brain atrophied. He lay motionless on the black market hospital's experimental bed, unable to get up. Ethan's last wish was to sell his organs while still alive to help me gather money. The money he exchanged for his life was extorted layer by the hospital, and by the time it reached me, only 500,000 yuan remained. But Hailey unilaterally took that money and gave it all to Mia's parents. She said it was to atone for my sins. I, in despair, jumped from the 18th floor. Before my body could even be cleared, Hailey launched a live stream, lamenting her misfortune and calling for donations to pay off her sister's debt. Very quickly, the donations reached 10 million yuan. She declared that instead of wasting money on a dead person, it was better to spread kindness to the world and help everyone. Then, she absconded with the money, living a carefree life abroad. But Ethan, he didn't even have a complete body. This time, I absolutely will not let the tragedy repeat itself. I grabbed Ethan's arm, my eyes fixed on him, unable to look away. Ethan, thank you, you go back first, trust me. Once I've resolved everything, I'll definitely come find you. In the dim light of the hallway, his eyes were shadowed, making his emotions unclear, but finally he nodded gently. I'll wait for you. As soon as they arrived at Hailey's villa, Mia immediately caused a commotion, demanding to stay in the master bedroom. Everything was unfolding exactly as it had in my previous life. Last time, out of sisterly affection, I reluctantly let her stay in the small room in my rented apartment, but she was still dissatisfied. Hailey looked coldly at me and chastised. "A guest is a king. Who could stay in such a small room? You give up your main bedroom. Otherwise, people will think we're bullying her." Before I could even agree, she pushed me out of the room. But when it was her turn, she glared, refusing. "This is my house. How can I give up my master bedroom?" When she was at a disadvantage, she spoke of reason, but when others were at a disadvantage, she spoke of morality. I patted her shoulder, smiling. "Hailey, a guest is a king. Who could stay in such a small living room? You give up your master bedroom." Hailey froze, her face turning pale as if she had swallowed a fly. Mia immediately took out tissues to wipe her tears, whining, "That's right, I've suffered so much. Can't you just give in a little? Don't you have any compassion? We're good sisters." Finally, Hailey angrily moved her belongings, throwing her suitcase around with a thud. Especially when she saw Mia happily lying on her large bed, she was so furious she almost tore the bedsheets. As she stormed out the door, she muttered something, but I heard every word clearly, putting on airs like she's the real owner. Yes, this villa should have been partly mine to begin with, yet she brazenly took it. Thanks to Hailey, I lost both my parents at a young age. On my 5th birthday, a day that should have been filled with joy became my mother's death anniversary. That day, I went with my father to the bakery to pick up my birthday cake. Meanwhile, Hailey took pity on a man who was lingering outside the villa, fearing he would get tired standing in the sun for too long, so she invited him in for a drink. But who would have known he was a serial killer with hypermasculinity syndrome who had been stalking the area for a long time, looking for an opportunity to strike? In a moment of crisis, Hailey panicked and locked herself in her bedroom. Ultimately, the killer cruelly murdered my mother in the kitchen. My father was heartbroken to the point of a stroke, becoming disabled. Hailey, barely in her 20s, suddenly became the pillar of the family. But when everyone thought she would hate the killer to her core, she stood before the media and declared, "He is just a patient. It's not his fault he killed someone. If we cannot forgive, will there be love in this society? Only forgiveness can transform him and make this world a better place." She loved being the center of attention, wanting to be a unique bodhisattva among the crowd. But instead of staying home to care for our father, she pitied the murderer, saying that a single man raising a child was very difficult. So, she wrote a letter of leniency, asking the court for a reduced sentence for him. She even adopted the murderer's 13-year-old son, raising him, hoping to reform a misguided teenager. But a murderer's child is still a murderer's child. He inherited his father's hypermasculinity syndrome. One day, when both Hailey and I were not home, he strangled our father to death with a rope. I lost both my mother and father in a short span of time. While I knelt before my parents' coffins, broken to the point of not being able to cry, Hailey wore a high-end white dress, holding a Burberry handkerchief, pretending to wipe away tears. Our parents' life insurance money, the huge compensation sum, all fell into her hands. The media was shaken by this event, cameras aimed directly at Hailey's tear-stained face. She continued to justify, "I believe that after he leaves the reformatory, he will definitely live a good life. He is still just a child, and society should be more tolerant of him. I will overlook everything and treat him as my own younger brother." My sister, Chloe, is still young. Material possessions are superficial to her. I will donate her inheritance to charity to help those who need it more. I will take good care of my sister. That year, I was too young. Hailey brainwashed me every day. "I am your only family, Chloe. You must listen to me. Everything is for great love. Later, when I live well, I will definitely make sure you also live well. Don't worry about your inheritance. Your money should be used for charity to accumulate good karma. You shouldn't care about eating and having fun. You must learn to be content with what you have. It's already so good that I give you a bite to eat. There are many people in this world who suffer more than you, waiting to be saved." She sponsored child after child in the villa complex. They had money to buy game consoles. Meanwhile, every time I had a health checkup, I was anemic and malnourished. The school repeatedly reminded us about tuition fees. During that time, Hailey's weight steadily increased, becoming so obese that she developed high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. She became a living Buddha, famous far and wide. Only after dying once did I realize she was nothing more than a pitiful pauper who needed my sacrifice to paint her image of nobility. She helped all outsiders but pushed me into the abyss. She was the biggest villain. Recently, I overheard all the things Hailey had been saying about me, calling me cold-blooded. She cried as she recounted how heartlessly I had thrown Mia out of the house, while she, with her great compassion, not only took Mia in but also tolerated me. But I didn't care. I was just waiting for the day she received her retribution. Mia was not a good person. Hailey was twisted, but her best friend was even more abnormal. She was lazy, greedy, and had sticky fingers. In my previous life, ever since she moved into my apartment, there were constant reports of missing items in the apartment complex hallway. Food deliveries left outside doors kept getting stolen. Building management investigated multiple times but found no results. I also scolded her, but for petty theft like this, besides installing cameras, there was nothing to be done. Until an elderly lady temporarily placed her medicine outside her door, and it disappeared in an instant. The old lady fell ill but had no medicine. She almost died and had to be rushed to the ICU. Fortunately, her life was saved. Afterward, when checking the camera, people saw a figure wearing clothes similar to mine. The apartment complex chat group immediately exploded. Everyone cursed me as a poor thief. But one look and I immediately recognized that it wasn't me, it was Mia, secretly wearing my clothes. I wanted to call the police, but Hailey immediately snatched my phone. Doesn't she have her own hardships? Who hasn't made mistakes? At most, the old lady missed one dose. She didn't die anyway. But if you call the police, Mia will lose her chance to reform. Do you want to be someone who destroys another person's life? If you shared half your salary with her, would she have gone down this path? Or are you just too selfish? Afterward, Hailey and Mia locked me in the house, forcing me to starve until I was exhausted, finally making me abandon the idea of calling the police. Just like that, the theft story was gradually forgotten. Everyone in the apartment complex tacitly understood that I was the thief. So this time, when I saw Hailey grabbing Mia's hand and pulling several necklaces from her bag, I had already prepared my hypocritical speech to throw back at her. Hailey was furious, insisting on calling the police. I snatched her phone and violently threw it to the ground, shattering it. She stared at me wide-eyed. "What are you doing? Do you want to ruin Mia?" I raised an eyebrow and calmly replied, "Oh, who wants to be a thief? Surely she has her own hardships." "If you call the police, her life will be over. Do you want to personally ruin your best friend? Your love is so boundless, these things are merely superficial possessions. You won't care about them, right?" She was speechless, so angry her chest heaved violently. Finally, her voice still trembling, she turned to Mia and asked, "So, where are the rest of the jewelry items?" Mia pouted, tears welling up as if she were the victim. "Hailey, don't be so harsh on me. I've been so unlucky already." "I lost everything." "Lost everything?" Hailey's shriek almost burst my eardrums. She knew Mia was penniless, so she couldn't do anything to her. Instead, she turned her anger on me. "I said from the beginning that Mia should stay with you. If you had listened to me, none of this would have happened." I shook my head, drawing out my words sarcastically. No. It's just that you weren't good enough to your best friend. If you cared about her more, how could this have happened?" "Hailey, perhaps you're not forgiving enough to be a living Buddha." I could only imagine Hailey's expression at that moment. She wanted to refute me but couldn't find any arguments. It was like a plum pit stuck in her throat, a thorn pricking her back, aching without being able to be removed. In the end, besides having to swallow it, just as I had done before, what else could she do? I skipped over to Hailey, smiled slyly, and held up something in my hand. "Don't be angry, Hailey. Look what I brought you." It was a bag of rotten clearance fruit from the supermarket. Hailey looked me up and down with disgust. "Bringing rotten food as a gift to someone, aren't you ashamed?" Oh, so she does know this is shameful, doesn't she? Yet before, I never saw her feel a shred of embarrassment. I shrugged, my voice light. "I thought spoiled fruit was easier to digest, no?" "Didn't you always bring a bag of spoiled fruit whenever you came to see me?" That year, I was only 5 years old, yet I had to live in constant hunger. Hailey feared the killer in prison wasn't eating or sleeping well, so she repeatedly sent money to the prison to ensure he received better care. Even before she left, she would wipe away tears and boast to other prisoners' families. "Repaying evil with kindness will surely bring blessings later." She sold every item our mother had left for me, taking the killer's son on trips everywhere, saying she had to use love to transform him. Meanwhile, I was locked in my bedroom, searching frantically but unable to find a single piece of food. There was only a bunch of bananas our mother had cleaned but hadn't had a chance to give me, still placed on a high cabinet above my head. Trembling, I stacked books into a makeshift ladder and climbed up. Just as I reached for a banana, the stack of books beneath me collapsed. My head hit the floor hard, the back of my head wet and sticky. I gritted my teeth against the pain and crawled toward the bed where my father was silently weeping. Father was already very weak. I decided to save the intact bananas for him, giving him one each day. As for the bruised ones, I cherished them so much that I only dared to take a tiny bite each time. But after only 3 days, the bananas were all gone. In the end, my father would rather starve to death than eat the banana in my hand. He only wanted me to eat it all. I, too, couldn't hold on any longer and fainted. When Hailey returned, I was barely clinging to life. Fortunately, my father was still okay. Standing beside my hospital bed, she smiled and told the nurse, "It's good for children to be a little hungry sometimes. It boosts their metabolism." The nurse only gave her a dirty look. While I was in the hospital for treatment, Hailey was busy organizing a gratitude lecture. On stage, she eagerly held the microphone, spreading her philosophy of charity. We must be filial to our parents, care for our siblings, and forgive sins, because sins are not born inherent. All beings are equal. Criminals are also human. They are also pitiful. They also have parents. But when she returned home, the father she preached about being filial to had been strangled to death by the very child she swore to reform. My father's tongue was sticking out, his face purple, looking incredibly terrifying. He was completely different from the father who used to push me on the swing, who once said he would protect me my whole life. As soon as I entered the house, I saw that scene and immediately fainted again. When Hailey visited me in the hospital, she brought a bag of shriveled, dehydrated fruit, clearly something she was about to throw away. She forced a smile and said, "Chloe, I remember you liked this fruit the most, so I specially saved it for you." The putrid smell of the fruit mingled with the image of my father's tragic death. From then on, whenever I saw spoiled fruit, I remembered my father. The house became a nightmare I couldn't wake from. But back then, I was just a 5-year-old child, molded by her like a lump of clay, without any power to resist. A little older, I was trained by her to be numb, no longer daring to defy her. Now, when she smelled the stench of the fruit in her hand, Hailey covered her nose in disgust. She angrily flung them to the ground, then turned and went into her room, locking the door tight. Looking at the mess at her feet, I smiled again. We fell into a cold war that lasted several days. During that time, she still tried to maintain a fake relationship with Mia, but I was not in a hurry. That day, when I heard a knock at the door, Hailey opened it herself. It was Ethan. She rarely smiled so brightly. Ethan pointed inside and asked, "Where is she?" When Hailey turned to look at me, a dangerous glint flashed in her eyes, but it was quickly hidden by a radiant smile. She ran to pull my arm. What a coincidence! I was just about to take Chloe for a walk in the park. Join us? Ethan found it inconvenient to refuse and agreed. I secretly counted the time, guessing that what I feared was about to happen. In the park, Ethan walked ahead, Hailey linking her arm with mine, walking side by side behind him. In a flower bed, a small dog was gnawing on weeds. Elderly people say that when a dog is unwell, it will find its own medicine from nature. But Hailey didn't understand that. She just saw an animal and got sick. The Great Mother figure immediately ran to the dog and pulled a chocolate bar from her bag. She held the chocolate in front of the stray dog, her voice full of compassion. "Puppy, are you hungry? Look what I have." I quickly stopped her. "Dogs can't eat chocolate, it will die," she retorted, frowning. "Don't you see it starving to death? Do you have any conscience? Why are you so particular? If you were starving to death, would you be picky? You're the one without conscience." With that, she bent down and threw the chocolate bar directly in front of the dog. In my previous life, to prove herself right, she had deliberately shoved chocolate into the stray dog's mouth. In an instant, blood flowed from its nose and mouth, and it convulsed and died right there in the flower bed. By the time it was taken to the veterinary hospital, it was too late. She only put on a pitiful act, explaining, "I only had good intentions. Besides, if you truly wanted what was best for it, you should have firmly stopped me." This time, I stomped hard on her hand. She screamed in pain. "I told you not to feed it. Don't you understand human language? If you don't listen, I have to use actions." I seized the opportunity, picked up the chocolate bar, and threw it directly into the trash can. She was about to erupt in anger, but just then, a desperate shriek rang out not too far away. The growling of a fierce dog mingled with the frantic cries of a child. Ethan reacted the fastest, rushing toward the sound. A stray dog with bloodshot eyes was wildly biting a boy of about 3 or 4 years old, pulling him to the ground. The moment the dog lunged for the boy's neck, Ethan swung a stick, aiming directly at the dog's rear end, its weak point. Taking advantage of the dog's surprise, Ethan delivered another powerful blow. It fell unconscious. The boy's parents rushed over, crying and grabbing a rock, intending to smash the dog to death. But just then, Hailey shrieked like a warrior charging into battle, rushing to shield the dog. She pointed at the crowd, her voice full of indignation. "This lovely puppy, it's humanity's best friend. How can you be so cruel?" The boy's parents were stunned. "This dog is mad. It almost killed my son." The surrounding crowd buzzed with discussions, but Hailey thoroughly enjoyed the attention, raising her voice as if giving a speech. "Perhaps it's just hungry. There are no bad dogs, only humans who don't know how to teach them. What did it do wrong? Don't you people have hearts? Besides, the child isn't seriously hurt, is he? You can't be too harsh on it." Voices of dissent rose around her, but she paid no attention. She bent down and gently spoke to the gasping dog. "Puppy, they are all bad people. I will save you. From now on, we are a family." In my previous life, she insisted on adopting this dog. Then she turned to me. "I'm allergic to dog fur, so you have to keep it at your place." According to her, if I didn't keep it, I was an enemy of dogs, cold-blooded. I refused. She immediately yelled, "Selfish!" Then shoved me violently towards the dog lying flat on the ground. The panicked dog turned and bit directly into my calf. A large chunk of flesh was torn, blood gushing out. When I received the rabies vaccine, I suffered unbearable pain, feeling like I was dying and coming back to life. Yet, she stood there, repenting. "The dog must be 100 times more painful than you, Chloe. It's already been wandering around. Why do people still want to harm it?" I demanded that the mad dog be euthanized to prevent it from attacking others, but she accused me of only thinking of myself and disregarding life. When the dog was forced to be put down, she cried more sorrowfully than when our parents died. Afterward, she announced she had donated money to a dog charity, saying it was her way of atoning for my sins. No one cared about my wound, which became infected, leaving a large, bowl-sized scar. I was so much pain I didn't dare wear dresses anymore. Yet, she calmly said, "This is your medal for doing good, Chloe. You should be proud." This time, when I saw her about to open her mouth, I immediately stepped back. "I need to stand a little further away. I'm allergic to dog fur." Ethan quickly stepped in front of me, shielding me. Hailey froze, then immediately played her hypocritical card. "Chloe, why are you so indifferent? Can you really bear to see it wandering around?" I wagged my finger. No. Who says it's wandering? Didn't you just adopt it?" All eyes in the crowd immediately turned to Hailey. She froze, caught between a rock and a hard place. Ethan coldly asked, "This dog seems abnormal. Are you sure you want to keep it?" She looked up, putting on a determined expression. "Everyone else is heartless, but I am not. I cannot lose my compassion." With that, she bent down and picked up the dog, holding it like a baby. The crowd silently watched her every move, waiting for the next spectacle. Hailey went deep into character, pouting, intending to give the stray dog a loving kiss. But the dog was drooling heavily, its bloodshot eyes lunging directly at her lips to bite. When she screamed and looked up, a piece of her lower lip had been torn off. Her screams mingled with the wind, as her mouth now had a large hole. In a panic, she lifted the dog high and threw it forcefully to the ground. That force clearly intended to kill it. In the hospital, Hailey, with a bandaged chin missing a corner, cursed at me. "If you had agreed to adopt the dog, I wouldn't be like this. Why am I the one suffering while others get to play the saint?" Her lip was torn, the crooked stitches guaranteed to leave a permanent scar. I pointed at her mouth, smiling sweetly. "Hailey, your medal for good deeds seems a bit too gruesome, doesn't it?" She was furious but couldn't do anything to me. I continued to suggest, "Or why don't you donate some money to a dog protection organization? After all, you just killed a dog. Isn't that an act of contempt for life?" She screamed in anger. "If I see another dog, I'll smash it to death." The stitches on her mouth, due to her rage, tore open, worsening the wound. I covered my mouth, laughing, glancing at Ethan. I noticed he was also looking at me. As soon as the door opened, Mia immediately rushed to Hailey's side. "Lend me some money, I'll pay you back tomorrow. I'm sure I'll win it all back today." But Hailey didn't even look at her, turning and walking straight into the laundry room. Very soon after, I heard the sound of running water from under the bedroom door. I saw Mia furtively taking out her phone. I also turned on my camera, secretly aiming my phone through the crack in the door. In my previous life, it was only when a colleague reminded me that I found out a video of me bathing had been disseminated on several dark websites. The company passed it around, colleagues discussed it, their eyes filled with implied meanings when they looked at me. I stared at the video on the screen, trembling all over. People began to suspect I was involved in something indecent. The job I had worked so hard to get was also lost. Later, I discovered the peeping Tom was Mia. I opened her phone, the messages were all dirty transactions. It turned out she specialized in secretly filming and selling videos for ill-gotten gains. Finally, I could clear my name. I took out my phone, intending to call the police, but Hailey snatched it. What did she do to you? Why can't you forgive? If it were me, I would choose to forgive. What's wrong with someone looking at you? Did you lose a piece of flesh? It's because you have dirty thoughts, there's nothing shameful about it. If you shared half your salary with her, she wouldn't have needed to secretly film to earn money. Making such a fuss over a small matter, is that being a decent human being? She threatened. If you dare call the police, I'll send that video to everyone to see. Under her pressure, I was scared and worried about the matter spreading. I locked myself in my room, not daring to go out, filled with negative thoughts. I fell into depression. I didn't dare meet Ethan. Every time he came to see me, I coldly chased him away. While I struggled to survive, no one cared for Mia. She resented me, thinking I deliberately mistreated her. Finally, when debt pushed her to the brink, she set fire to the house, dragging me to die with her. Looking through the crack in the door, I saw Mia smiling triumphantly. I quietly closed the door. Nothing was more important than a good night's sleep. Less than 2 days later, I saw Hailey's video online. Unfortunately, her mouth was still bandaged, which made it a little less exciting. I took a screenshot, blurring out sensitive areas but intentionally leaving her face and some vague features visible. Then, I created a small account and sent the screenshot to all the group chats with people I knew. I wonder if this is Hailey? Oh my God, what a shock. Everyone come see, I'm not sure myself, maybe you can help me identify her. In the chat group, messages exploded. From initial confusion, people began to discuss whether it was her, gradually moving to definite affirmation. They commented on Hailey's figure, speculating on what secrets she might be hiding from others. By the time she read the group chat messages, there were already hundreds of lines of texts. Everyone was watching the spectacle. Hailey covered her mouth, her eyes wide as saucers. What the hell is this? I'm going insane? Mia was also drawn by Hailey's screams. Just one glance at the phone's content and she was completely stunned. Mia stumbled back repeatedly. I was truly curious how Hailey would react if she knew her beloved best friend was the one who filmed her. I quickly grabbed Hailey's hand, my voice gentle as if comforting her. Hailey, don't blame Mia. She definitely has her own hardships. If you had lent her money then, she wouldn't have had to film your naked pictures for money. Hailey froze, turning her head, her eyes wanting to pierce Mia. This is a violation of privacy. I must call the police. Before she could do anything, I snatched her newly bought phone and slammed it to the ground. The screen shattered, fragments flying. I calmly said, "Is there a need to call the police and make a big deal out of it? Why can't you let go?" If it were me, I would choose to forgive. This was exactly what she had said to me in my previous life. But now, she was so angry she stomped her foot. "Chloe, don't think I'm stupid. Do you dare swear you have nothing to do with this? If I call the police, you'll be arrested too?" I shrugged and calmly replied, "Someone looked at you. What did you lose? You didn't lose a piece of flesh. It's just because you have dirty thoughts." She gritted her teeth. "You are truly shameless." I chuckled. "Oh, so you also find this embarrassing? Then go ahead and call the police. It's best if the whole world knows how embarrassed you are." How she threatened me before, I now used the same method to push her. She was afraid of everything unraveling, so she smashed things in the room but still didn't dare call the police. From trying to pretend to be amiable with each other, she and Mia now hated each other to the point of wanting to kill one another. The two argued constantly, even fighting to the point of blood. I decisively moved to the company and buried myself in work. Unexpectedly, the boss personally called me into his office, but the content of the conversation almost made me grit my teeth. The boss pointed to the chair opposite. "Sit. Looking at your work ethic, I don't think you're the type of person without ambition." I frowned. "What do you mean?" He coughed lightly and slowly said, "Previously, I called you intending to assign you a project. Based on your ability, you could definitely do well. If completed, your salary would double, and promotion opportunities would also open up more. But at that time, the person who answered the phone was your older sister. After hearing about it, she scolded me, saying you only come to the company to sponge off others and shouldn't be given such important work. She said to give the opportunity to someone more deserving. At that time, I was so angry I almost fired you. Everything was too clear. I worked maniacally, only hoping to get a promotion and raise to take care of myself. But I never understood why, even though I was the victim in the video incident, some companies still fired me. It turned out my entire life had been subtly ruined by Hailey. I stood up and bowed 90 degrees to my boss. I truly need this job. Please give me one last chance. I got the project, and everything went smoothly. Just then, Hailey called, pretending to care about my work. I knew she only wanted to snoop, so I deliberately sighed. The company is cutting staff. I'm probably the next one to be laid off. I could clearly hear her sigh of relief. I chuckled. Hailey, don't you want me to live well? Why does your voice sound so happy? She was startled and awkwardly replied, Of course not. I naturally hope you get promoted, get a raise, and have a bright future. That's good. She suddenly became happier and even suggested cooking a meal, saying the three of us should get together. I checked my calendar and nodded. That day finally arrived. At the dinner table, Hailey raised her glass. Cheers to our eternal friendship. The front door was kicked open. She looked out blankly. As soon as she clearly saw the people who had just stormed in, Mia was so scared she ran straight into the bedroom and locked the door. A man sneered, You live in such a luxurious villa, yet you claim you have no money to pay your debts. No money? Then give us your belongings. The men began to divide tasks, clearing out the villa. Hailey frantically blocked them. What are you doing? This is robbery. I'll sue you. But no sooner had she finished speaking than she was kicked aside, her head hitting the base of a cabinet hard, blood gushing out. But even so, she couldn't stop them. All the expensive items she had meticulously decorated the villa with were carried away. Hailey angrily got up and pounded on the bedroom door. You damn debtor, get out here now, I'll kill you. As for me, I didn't pay attention to her anymore. I smelled something burning, the smell of smoke. After our parents died, to maintain an outward appearance of glamour, Hailey renovated the villa, but the interior materials were all cheap and flammable. The fire erupted fiercely. After cursing to her satisfaction, Hailey grabbed a chair and smashed it against the door frame. As soon as the door burst open, thick smoke billowed out, carrying red flames that rushed into the living room, igniting the entire space. I immediately retreated from the villa, running to warn the neighbors to evacuate to avoid being implicated. But the fire spread too quickly. By the time Hailey struggled out of the villa, the fire had already spread to the neighbor's house. The old man next door slumped to the ground, his voice trembling, My life's work, all destroyed. Why do bad things keep happening to me? When the firefighters arrived, Mia had already been burned to death in the villa. Half of the neighbor's house was also burned down. The old lady next door rushed over, grabbing Hailey's charred collar. You must compensate us for our house. We'll sue you. I quickly distanced myself. I only came here for dinner. I'm not responsible for anything. In an instant, Hailey was drowning in debt. Initially, she still wanted to haggle, but the neighbors followed her every step, not leaving her side for a second, occasionally causing trouble, making her life a living hell. Finally, with no other options, she gathered all the money in her account but was still short 10,000 yuan. She turned to me. Chloe, you also ate this meal. You should at least bear half the responsibility, right? I smirked. Go ahead and sue me. Everyone knows Mia and I were at odds. If the court rules I have to compensate, I will compensate. She herself knew this was unreasonable, so she immediately changed her tone, grabbing my hand, pleading desperately. Then lend me 10,000 yuan, at least so I can pay the neighbors first. You don't know, their whole family wants to kill me, I said indifferently. Then use your property deed as collateral. She immediately backed away, her face stiff. This house is worth at least 10 million. You want to exchange it for 10,000 yuan? Dream on, this house is already in dispute. Do you think you can sell it quickly? Without money, what will you use to rebuild? What's the point of keeping this house? Transfer the ownership to my name. After I repair it, you can still have a room to stay in. She gritted her teeth. Drawing me a pie in the sky? Who doesn't know you're playing games? I was too familiar with her tricks. She gnashed her teeth. You're truly taking advantage of a house on fire. Dream on. To try and save the house, she erected a makeshift tent next to the ruins. But she quickly discovered something even more terrifying. That day, Mia's parents, leaning on canes, stood trembling in front of the tent. Hailey's eyes widened in horror. Mia's mother gripped her hand. My daughter died in your house, you must support us. Hailey froze, turning to look at me, but I only smiled. I know you're the kindest person, Hailey. They've lost their child, so you'll definitely support their parents, right? She was so angry she couldn't speak, wanting to smash something, but realizing there was nothing valuable left. Finally, in despair, she pushed down the tent, but Mia's parents wouldn't give up, crying and pulling her hand. Give us back our daughter. And then the neighbors brought their whole family, armed with sticks, demanding compensation. She completely collapsed. Fine, I'll transfer the house, all right? As soon as the transfer was complete, she finally breathed a sigh of relief, proudly boasting to me, no more debt. As long as I'm alive, I will definitely rise to the top again. Just you wait. I chuckled. Really, Hailey, I'm afraid you won't be so carefree today. A strange man approached and forcefully shoved her. Who are you? She snapped, annoyed. The man sneered. Have you forgot? You once said you'd reform me and support me my whole life. Now I'm out of prison, you have to keep giving me money. Hailey froze. Alex, the killer's son from that year, was out of prison. She panicked, backing away. I don't have money, don't come closer. The man's expression suddenly changed, his voice deepening. You had money before, now you don't. Do you think I believe that? You said you'd be responsible for life. Don't even think about backing out. I hate people who go back on their word the most. Hailey turned to flee, but a cold glint flashed. A sharp blade plunged directly into her back. She tumbled to the ground, thrashing and screaming for help. But once his hypermasculinity syndrome rampage erupted, how could he spare her? The man stabbed her repeatedly, turning her into a sieve riddled with holes. Only when the police rushed in was he subdued. Ethan hurried over and hugged me tightly. He trembled. Are you okay, Chloe? I almost thought something happened to you. I'm sorry I'm late. I shook my head, smiling faintly, holding up the villa's property deed. Looking at Hailey's bloody corpse, I slowly said, You were a saint, Hailey. You'll forgive everyone, won't you? I hope it's the same in hell.